Hi everyone, welcome back. You're watching the State of the Nation interview. So tonight, we just want to review a week that has been largely eventful. From a cabinet reshuffle, we've been seeing appointments and of course surprise appointments as well. Pronouncements by opposition leader Raila Odinga, sort of like going public about the whole making of what we now popularly refer to as the handshake, and many others. And so joining us tonight for the studio discussion, great to have you, Charles Munyui.
Thank you very much. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a moment, sure.
Yeah.
Same for you, Dennis Anyoka.
Yes, indeed, it has been a while.
And John as well. Thank you so much for coming back.
My pleasure.
Yeah, John Amboro, Mheshimiwa.
Yes.
So, gentlemen, maybe I could start off with you, Charles.
Yes.
What do you make of the events of Friday? Is sort of like the handshake now taking shape? Are we getting to appreciate probably Raila Odinga's role in this new whole formation?
Yeah, and I think that was a loaded statement, if you ask me. It was not just idle talk, if you ask me. First and foremost, he almost indicated that he's not going to be in the ballot. Because when you say Uhuru is not talking 2022, naturally because he will not be there 2022 to contest, not the presidency anyway. And the only gentlemen that sat and discussed this were people who had no business talking about 2022. I think what he's implying, in short, is that he, in as far as today is concerned, whether that is believable or not, that's a different story. But that's the bottom line. And he wants people to refocus on other things. So anybody who is talking politics is not going to sit very well in as far as this particular arrangement is come up with the president is concerned. And I think that's to say a lot. Mm-hmm. And moving forward, I don't know, maybe we are going to see a Raila who is a kingmaker, but the kingmaker who again is very cautious so that it does not affect that which they have set up. You've seen a lot of arrests going on in terms of matters corruption. You've seen a lot of things going on. Cohesion, I think we feel very, very peaceful. That's why even Obama is going to have a very good time. He's not here to tell people to talk to each other, relate with each other. So I think temperatures are going down, and a lot of things can be able to be done now that this is happening. So I think that was basically what he was trying to say. It's a whole talk of people not campaigning in advance. How now everyone else handles that is going to be that which makes you either look like you're working with the whole agenda that they've set with the president or not.
All right, and Dennis, just listening into Raila speaking in Kitui, and now going public about this and saying, hey, by the way, when we were having this discussion prior to this, the president told me, don't come with Kalonzo. And I said, of course, don't also come with your number two. What was he trying to put across?
Both Ruto and Raila, they are politicians, and they are politicians of tremendous experience. I think when they all speak matters politics, they all want to take credit of the situation so they can be seen to have really been the one who pulled the shot. It can't be very clear whether truly William Ruto didn't know about the handshake or he knew about it. Whether Kalonzo, of course Kalonzo confirmed that he didn't know that there will be a handshake and he was not involved. But I think the most important thing is, in all this, there is something that came out and they were not involved because subsequent to the handshake, we've seen appointments come in, and we've seen the appointments look like there is something coming out of the handshake, because the people who are perceived to have been, very close to Raila are now getting to be appointed into government offices, which initially, in the situation where the politics was, they could not easily be appointed. And if you follow through the trail of tweets and statements that have come from William Ruto, it appears like somebody who was not really fully in the picture. He was responding to a situation that he found himself in. So it's possible that they are, taking credit. It will look very bad if we are all to admit that the Ruto didn't know completely. It will look very bad to the Jubilee team, to people who worked very closely together, that Uhuru decided that it's not to bring him on board. To save the face, he has to say, I was involved. I was involved. The president consulted me. Raila plays his politics and says, look, this gentleman is misleading the nation. He was not involved. Yes.
And of interest, really, Jonah, just alluding to what Charles has spoken about in terms of the appointments and how this whole thing is shaping up. In terms of strengthening cohesion, because that was a major pointer towards the March 9th handshake. So would you say then the country is increasingly becoming, at home and feeling part of the government's agenda based on these appointments that seem to be having sort of like a national outlook, intentional? Would you say that?
Yeah, maybe just responding to the earlier question. I think Raila, being the politician he is trying to steal the show. I don't believe there was any MOUs written between Uhuru and Raila when they had a handshake. Remember, it came when there was too much pressure from the US. The US secretary was coming to Kenya, and I'm sure there are phone calls all over that you guys have to reconcile and you have to look at the country as a whole. It is only now that being the politician that everybody wants to take the center stage and believing that I'm the one who is being held by the king himself. Uhuru being the king himself, and now he's exiting. So Raila wants to be held like he's the one who is making decisions. But well said, Kenya is experiencing a new atmosphere where we are reaching out to everybody, and we are seeing positions given to even the most thought that they were enemies of Jubilee. We are seeing Achilo Ayako now has come in.
And of course, he's declined the appointment.
There has come in the guy from the Air Force. So guys who have come from, and I think it is good for the nation. Jubilee, we don't want to lose focus as a party, but we don't want to have a war with a unifying factor for the nation.
Absolutely. So he seems to be denying the existence of a 9-point agenda between the two gentlemen in this case. I mean, just looking at the events from March 9th, in terms of stabilizing the country's political environment, the war against corruption.
I think that agreement was there. The arrangement was there on what they're going to deal with. And that statement was read. That's stating a truism. It is there, it was read. And Kenyans are very skeptical. That time, they were very skeptical because they've seen these things happening, and then 2 minutes later, everyone is contradicting everyone else. And I think now, moving forward, we have started seeing whether Raila is party to Uhuru's program on how to deal with matters graft is not the issue. Because what is of interest to Kenyans out there is that you've seen a governor who is Raila leaning, getting arrested, arraigned in court, and everyone is saying we are okay with it. As long as due process is going to be followed, we are fine. Other than the confusion when they see Council Orengo in court, and that he's doing as a lawyer, he's not doing that as an opposition leader. Other than that little confusion, everything else is there. But if you look at Uhuru's program on fighting graft, people did not realize when he came up with what we now come to call the multi-agency team, that includes the DCI, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the judiciary, even asset recovery. There is a lot going on. And around the same time, you remember, even the judiciary came on board, and now we have a division that is dealing specifically with matters corruption and economic crimes. A lot of things have been happening. The changes, my classmate, the DCI, coming on board. An individual who is well-versed with matters investigation, moving from NIS to become the Director of Public Prosecution. A lot of things have been going on in as far as Uhuru is concerned on working on these things, and that's why it's flowing. Raila will naturally come in and say, I was not really interested in the Big Four. In the event the Big Four don't work, people will go and say, Raila was not even part of the Big Four, but Raila worked on corruption. You can see people have been arrested. Raila was good with matters cohesion. You can see how much we love each other. Right. That's brilliance, if you ask me, politically speaking. And
so, well, Dennis, then would you say, based on the events that we've been seeing, the Kenya Power arrests on Friday, yes, and rather Saturday, happening. So the president is really moving in to sort of like do everything that it takes to achieve and to secure his legacy in terms of achieving the Big Four agenda.
I think we see today a very different Uhuru, if you ask me, from the Uhuru we knew prior to 2017. There's a time, I think he was in State House and he held a conference, but he looked somebody who is under siege. He was clearly saying, what do you want me to do? This time, he seems to know clearly what he needs to do, and is doing it. And we are seeing arrests. For the first time, we have senior government officials, people who have political connections, getting arrested. I want to believe that there is good evidence, because if then the test of it all will come when the evidence will be produced in court. Arresting is a good thing, and the political goodwill is there. And in the fullness of time, if we do not get then convictions, it is going to really water down what the president is trying to achieve. Because then if you look like it was either a political witch hunt or it was basically a question of public show. There was nothing, there was no basis for all these arrests. But so far, so good. Looks like the president is on the right track. He has now the goodwill, the country is calm, and he's actually likely to achieve what he wants to achieve because the goodwill is there across the divide. Going, crossing over to the opposition side and, shaking their hand and asking them to work together and them accepting was a good thing for him, specifically. For us as Kenyans, it was good for peace, but for him to achieve anything meaningful, you could not continue leading a country where there is somebody else out there who claims the people's president and giving directions and having a section of 2 million Kenyans who believe in him and want to follow what he's saying, which is conflicting with what you as head of state is doing. That will be a very difficult setup to work in. So right now you can achieve a lot, but the test in it all, like all these arrests will be in the convictions, if it will be done within the period when he's in office.
All right. And Jonathan, how does the president then navigate these waters between politics and vision? So he's focused more or less on securing his legacy and achieving his agenda. And then there's also focus on the 2022 election politics. So how does he navigate then this?
The president will have achieved for the party in either way. If he achieves the Big Four, if the Big Four agenda is well achieved, then the whole party will be a success. From the deputy president to us as the lieutenants, we'll all be successful because the country will see the achievements of the party, not President Uhuru as an individual. So fighting corruption is killing some issues in the medium that may make us or may deter the achievement of the Big Four. So when Uhuru is fighting corruption with that vigor, it's because he wants the road to be clear. So you must clear the bushes so that when you start moving, you move and you achieve your agenda. So he'll achieve his legacy by achieving the Big Four. And he'll also achieve the legacy of the party. So he'll have left us as the party owners or as the party followers in a better position when everything is achieved.
Don't you think then election politics could sort of like undermine this momentum at one point, Charles?
I don't see it happening. And I think we need to also remind ourselves that most of these things that we are talking about, the 4 agendas, they are devolved functions. Agriculture, when we're talking food security, we are talking about agriculture. Agriculture is devolved. And other than national policy at the top, he has to have a governor or governors that are working with him. And I think that you've seen that relationship is growing. If you look at even in the thing that he's talking about, health, universal health, affordable and good health care, it is devolved because other than national referral hospitals and policy, everything else has gone to the governors. So it is not just instant coffee. It's not something that Uhuru will just, wave something and it happens. It's a relationship issue. It is about policy. It is about funding. It's about support for governors and the counties so that they can be able to deliver. Politics will always be there because even governors are undermining, those that are seeking positions as governors are also undermining the ones that are sitting. There are those that are sitting and that are working overboard to ensure that they do those things that please the people in the short term so that they can be able to win. So it's a whole combination of a lot of things that need to be looked into so that the Big Four can be achieved. But I think the president being focused, the deputy president being focused, and Raila Amolo Odinga, the leading opposition leader in this country, being focused on the same, I'm seeing that being delivered. And again, the fight against corruption, that would be the thing, the cream of the cake, if you ask me.
All right. I just want to quickly get your closing comments, gentlemen. Dennis, how are things going to be shaping up in the coming week based on the events that we've seen in the last couple of days?
I think for some time we are likely to see a lot of collaboration between Raila Odinga and the president. It's not going to end anytime soon because I think we are seeing results and positive results. We are not seeing unnecessary criticism to the government effort, which initially was really the order of the day. I think opposition was sometimes criticizing things just because they do not want to see the government succeed. So as things stand, we are likely to see a lot of teamwork and we are likely to see more heads rolling. Absolutely.
And so what's in the cards then, Jonah, going forward? Because the ruling Jubilee Party has been somewhat seeming very unstable, but looks like the president is moving in to sort of like steady the ship as we've been looking at the events of the last couple of days.
Looking at the coming weeks, the political overtones will have reduced. for the favor of Jubilee. You have seen that there was too much political heat, but in eventuality, could have won. We look at the Coast region was predominantly an ODM region. Now 70% of the Coast region is saying we're behind this guy who is in Jubilee. The Western region was predominantly ODM or NASA. 70% now they are saying we are behind this guy. And he has not still lost his part. But we want to reduce the political overtones in the coming weeks. There will be vetting of SRC. Remember, one guy who was proposed to be the chair is in the corruption list, and now a big problem. There will be a lot of talking about who will be the chair now, because the president, I am sure the president has to bring in a new name for the chair. But coming week, it will be cool, and I'm sure the president will be doing more reshuffles for his cabinet.
More?
I'm sure he'll be doing more reshuffles.
Okay. All right, Jonah.
I would get an appointment.
Yeah, he's looking forward. He's looking at the Big Four agenda.
Okay.
All the way he has to achieve the Big Four agenda.
All right. Interesting. That coming out from him then.
Yes.
Well, we can always take it at least with some benefit of a doubt. But then, gentlemen, we just have to bring this to a close right now. Charles Munyui,
thank you,
political analyst, and Dennis Anyoka, political analyst as well as a lawyer, and Mheshimiwa Jonah Mburu, MP for Larry, the most expansive constituency in
Kiambu County without roads, my friend. So we need to lobby more for roads.
Okay. We now take a short commercial break. We'll be back with the sports highlights.